Hi guys, today is the 29th of June 2019 and 57 minutes past 1 in the afternoon over here in the UK. And the Senate Republicans have decided it's a good idea to allow Donald Trump to launch a military strike against Iran without any congressional approval at all. So, it could be in the middle of the night. He decides he's going to launch an attack and no one has to be informed, obviously, apart from the Pentagon. And unless they decide to leak information, we won't know anything's happening until news reports come out that a strike has targeted Iran or, Iran has retaliated in some way. So this is important. The GOP-controlled Senate defeated a measure on Friday that would have blocked President Donald Trump from launching a military strike against Iran unless he got explicit congressional approval. The 50 to 40 vote came after a rare congressional debate over war powers and amid escalating tensions between the US and Iran. The measure needed 60 votes to pass. Four Republicans broke ranks to support the measure: Susan Collins, Mike Lee, Jerry Moore, and Rand Paul. Supporters said the battle would now move to the House, where Democrats hold the majority and have a similar measure in the legislative hopper. And they argued that Friday's vote still marked a significant step in pushing back Trump's foreign policy. It's all a mess. It's clear some people want war with Iran, and they are spread throughout the White House, the Trump administration, and the Senate and the House. And you know, it does look like Trump will be able to go to war with Iran without Congress getting involved. So we'll see how that pans out. Nothing good. Um, Iran. This is interesting. Obviously, we're looking out for an attack in France, not necessarily in Paris. Lyon Stadium, Women's World Cup. Plenty of videos and interpretations on that. And this report comes out. Iran delivered half a ton of explosives in diplomatic suitcases to Paris for a jihad terror attack. I mean, it just sets it all up, doesn't it? Sets it all up ready to blame Iran for any attack that might go down in Paris, whether that's on the 2nd of July, the 3rd of July, or some day after that, you know, remains to be seen. Hopefully not seen. But this all just sets it up. Half a ton of explosives was brought to Paris in diplomatic suitcases in order to carry out a terror attack before being foiled by French authorities, it was reported in the British media. The British newspaper Independent in Arabic quoted an intelligence source as saying that in 2018, Iran had delivered half a ton of TATP explosives in diplomatic packages to a civilian plane that was supposed to be transferred to Paris to carry out an attack in the city. According to the report, the plane arrived from Tehran to Geneva in June 2018, following an Iranian plan to carry out a terrorist attack during a meeting of the Iranian opposition. According to a report based on intelligence sources, the attack was supposed to be carried out by an Iranian intelligence official who worked at the Iranian embassy in Austria since 2014, but French intelligence thwarted the attack after the authorities arrested a Belgian couple of Iranian origin who had the explosives in their car on their way to Paris. So, why bring out the report now if it, happened in 2018? The suggestion is that Iran has the capability to deliver explosives to France for a terrorist attack. And reports like this just put it into the public's mind that that's a possibility. And if Iran is blamed, it's something that could be believed. So keep an eye out for that. And obviously, I'm just bringing up this report. Could Britain join the US in war with Iran as tensions with Tehran rise? Because the United States is due to play the United Kingdom on the 2nd of July at the Women's World Cup in France at Lyon Stadium, where we're looking out for a potential terrorist attack at the match or during the match. Maybe not in the stadium location, possibly outside, again, like they had in 2015, or perhaps somewhere else in the country or around the world. But at that time, that's what I'm looking for. And reports like this: could Britain join the US in a war with Iran? Obviously, if an attack takes place while the United States and the UK are playing a match in France and they blame it on Iran, then the UK would join the United States in a war with Iran, and so too would France. And obviously, France is, kind of resistant to go to war with Iran. so too is the UK. But if terrorist attacks take place in one of the host countries and involving the other country's people, it's more likely that they will join in any efforts to go against Iran. So that's why I brought those reports up. Donald Trump is heading to South Korea after his G20 meeting. He's actually there today and will be there tomorrow as well. I think after that he flies back to the United States for the 1st of July. So Donald Trump, the US president, will arrive in Seoul on Saturday to attempt to shift up a gear on North Korean nuclear disarmament talks that are firmly stuck in neutral. Stuck. Get stuck on that word. Ironic. The interesting thing I feel in this report is Trump says he'd feel very comfortable crossing into North Korea if he meets Kim Jong Un at the DMZ. This is interesting because he says he wants to shake Kim Jong Un's hand at the DMZ, and I feel that that may be connected to this scene here, where we see the possibility of, you know, the Korean Peninsula with the skeleton representing a number of things, including a rich man or Abraham Lincoln. You know, a rich man could be Donald Trump. There's a lot of references to Donald Trump in this video. Um, so it's possible he could go there and shake Kim Jong Un's hand. Maybe not in this trip, but soon after. But it's something to watch out for, particularly because he's in the area. He's saying he wants to do these things. We've got this rich skeleton, which represents a rich dead man, extending his hand towards the girl that represents Korea. I think Korea as a whole, because the tiger represents Korea as a whole, and the peace flag, the denuclearization on the girl's cheek, all kind of signifies what's going on the Korean Peninsula at the moment: denuclearization, love, and then something happening to disrupt that. And if Trump goes to the DMZ, you know, it's possible one of the Korean soldiers could take matters into his own hands and do something. Obviously, he'd be killed if that wasn't part of the plan, but, you know, it's another possibility. That's why I present it, something to watch out for if he decides to go there and shake Kim Jong Un's hand. And while I was going through my reports, I got like a different categories, and one of those categories is killer whale. Obviously, keep an eye on that. And they still haven't named fish number 8. They want to name it something. And I was thinking, what are the names that they've got at the moment? Looking through the list of names here, I'm drawn to Inoho, which means regeneration. And that reminds me of the lotus water lily flower blooming out of the apple. With the volcano on the apple, we've got the interpretation for 2 or 4 volcanoes. Two in the region of Italy, Stromboli and Mount Etna, and 2 in the region of Hawaii, Kilauea and Mauna Loa. With the number 8 blooming in the middle, not just possibly representing, you know, the time a football match starts and halftime linked to it, but Fisher number 8, with the 8 going across the break in the middle, giving you another reference to Fisher, and possibly the F coming off of the number 8, which again could lead you to Fisher number 8. They could name it Onoho, and it could mean regeneration. Same thing as kind of like the lotus water lily symbolizes regeneration, birth, that kind of thing. And so I was just looking at the lotus flower, and obviously the lotus has to bloom in water. That's its place. But one thing I didn't know about the lotus flower, and some of you may not know, so I'm going to share with you, is that it's used in water treatment. And I think that's possibly a clue in relation to contaminated water from possibly, nuclear material. If the, nuclear submarine drone Poseidon is used to create a tsunami, that may contaminate the water. There's other situations that could contaminate the water, power plant meltdowns and stuff like that. And it's possible there's a clue here showing you how you could possibly decontaminate the water, or at least partially treat it so it's less dangerous. The water lily shows high potential for usage in wastewater treatment, removing polluting compounds and heavy metals. It is also able to grow in variable water conditions and low light intensity. So, if the sky is a bit clouded over due to ash or smoke, something like that, and you're only getting, little bits of light, the water lily is well equipped to deal with that. Again, variable water conditions. Various studies show the successful use of, well, the water lily in its scientific name to counteract water eutrophication. Let's just have a quick look at what that means. Is when a body of water becomes overly enriched with minerals and nutrients which induce excessive growth of algae. This process may result in oxygen depletion of the water body, which would obviously kill any fish or anything that you would hopefully want to grow in there. So it stops that. The leaves of the floating lotus reduce sunlight reaching the lower part of the water. This suppresses algae growth in aquatic, and thus the oxygen content is up to 20% higher than in other aquatic plant systems. So, for example, if you wanted to, farm a pond of fish in situations where there's low light and bad water quality, the water lily would be of a benefit to you. If you had a bunch of those in the water, it would be able to filter out quite a lot of toxins and pollutants and enrich the water with oxygen, which would make it drinkable, one thing, and also enable life to flourish within it and around it. So I think that's important. Due to intense agricultural practices, nitrogen and phosphorus pollution are major problems in aquatic systems. The water lily, or the lotus, is able to assimilate a higher content of phosphorus than aquatic plants currently used for water remediation, such as the water hyacinth. It also assimilates nitrogen and creates a habitat for bacterial growth in the water body, good bacteria, through rhizome filtration. I think that's like filtration, rhizome filtration. Heavy metals, including arsenic, copper, and cadmium, can be removed efficiently from the water. The results observed are impressive, showing 96% of copper and 85% of cadmium metals removed after a 7-day incubation period. The accumulation of heavy metals doesn't show morphological symptoms of metal toxicity. However, the rhizome quality for human consumption needs further study. Obviously, there's other options after you've had the water lilies in the water for a period of time, allowing it, purify the water somewhat. You could then use more traditional methods such as evaporation, boiling, to then purify the water even further. Obviously, there's systems out there like osmosis and reverse osmosis, things like that that you could use, but that may not be available in an emergency or readily available all the time. Whereas if you could get yourself a bunch of seeds survive in a lot of conditions, and when you're ready to use them, you'd obviously have to wait a little while, but you'd then be able to have something that could continually regenerate itself. And this is in a system where you're looking to survive for a while in an area where you found potential safety in times of hardship. So I just thought I'd bring that to you. Maybe a little bit boring scientific information about a plant and how it can help you with water, but it may be valuable in times when you need it. So there we go. Have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and may the Heavenly Father bless you.